So, well, welcome and good to see everybody. And thank you for joining me today for our seventh kind of refresher session. This will be somewhat of a review of what we did in the 6-week class. So I appreciate all of you who could be here. And as I said, I am going to record it, so it'll be available. So some review, we're going to check in. I'm going to ask you in a minute after we do our first pause to see how it's going. Hopefully you've got some of your mindful practices going on a regular basis. So I'm going to ask for some feedback, see how that's going, what's working, what's not working, what some of the challenges are, or what is going well. That's the whole point of the class, is so that you can develop your ongoing practice.
Okay.
I'm going to mute everybody. That'll help. And we're going to do a couple of meditations. We're going to do a couple of different, little what I might call advanced, or not the usual things that we've done in the class, just so that you can get a taste. There's a lot of things out there that if you have explored on YouTube or on the apps, or there's a lot of resources out there, you'll come across a number of different styles and focuses of meditations. So I'm going to give you a taste of a couple in today's session as well. All right, so let's start with our first pause. And what we're going to do in this pause is simply, I'm going to give you some brief guidance to start with, but then we're going to have some silence. And so that's part of what I think we see in some more experienced or more advanced meditations. There's more periods of silence, which actually, when you think about it, gives us more opportunities for our mind to wander. And but that's sometimes people do full meditations in total silence, and even to a very advanced degree, taking a silent retreat where you're in silence for the whole retreat, as well as during the meditation periods, really a lot of silence. So very much turning inward. So let's do that just for a couple of minutes. Let's pause. And so just whatever position you're in, if you want to adjust, get yourself comfortable, whatever is good for you, just take a moment to do that. And just intentionally pause. We're pausing to take a break, setting aside all the things we've been working on, and just getting to that state of being. And one way to do that is to kind of ask yourself, as we settle and to let our body settle in the chair, let our mind settle a little bit. You can close your eyes if you like, or keep them slightly open. Just kind of ask yourself, what are you aware of? Because this is really about awareness. So what are you aware of right now? And as you sort of do that internal weather check, maybe noticing thoughts, emotions, sensations in the body. So what are you aware of? I'll be silent for a moment or so. And what are you aware of now? Where is your attention? Might have gotten lost in a train of thought, or caught up in some emotional energy or stuff going on in the body. Whatever, where is your attention right now? And let's take a deep breath or two. Our breathing can always help stabilize us a little bit and kind of gather our attention. So breathing nice and deep. Feel this breath in and out. And before we close, maybe making an intention for the rest of the day. It could be something like an intention to bring your mindful awareness to different activities of the afternoon, or to be mindful of things you're grateful for, or whatever it is, just making an intention for yourself in some mindful way. And that's our initial pause. You can open your eyes if they've been closed. And again, so it's sort of just checking in. You might have noticed, that was only 1 minute of silence. Felt like a long time, didn't it? A lot of our meditations so far have been focused in on the breath or the body, or, we've done compassion and self-compassion. So anyway, that's if you want to put in a little bit of what that was like, even just having a little bit of silence, it's different. I know even for myself, a lot of the meditations I still do, I listen to guided meditations, and believe me, there's nothing wrong with that. If you really like that, I like a lot of guided meditations because it gives me different ideas for my teaching, and I get different styles and different things to focus in on. But silent meditations can be good as well. So you might try mixing in some of those. And let me open it up now and just ask, how's it been going? It's been almost a month, I think, since our last class. So you've had a month to practice. You've had a month to try to keep the ball rolling and keep your meditation practice going. And so let me ask you, I did send you that plan, the mindfulness plan, towards the end of the class. Hopefully you've been using that in some fashion. What's your plan to keep this going, both formally with the formal, sitting meditations or whatever formal practice you've been doing, but also informally, having a nice balance, I think, is really important. So if you would like to speak up, feel free to do that, or if you want to use the chat. What's working and what's getting in the way now that you've had a chance for a few weeks on your own to keep this going? How's it been going for you? And again, I hope that I've given you some foundation. I'll be showing you we've talked a little bit already, but continuing to talk about what are some ways that you can keep this going. We do have that monthly mindfulness refresher class. That is going to happen actually next week, next Wednesday. So hopefully you might consider joining that. It's Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:15. Yeah, here's one. So please feel free to join in. What's working for you? Good so far. I do it at night before going to bed. Good. So a regular routine sounds like that's good. That's important. I know for me, I used to have a very set routine. It's become a little more flexible because my own schedule has become more flexible. And so you'll see things change as your life changes, as your own routines change. You might have to find a different time and place to do the practices. I've been more mindful in my thoughts I have about myself, and taking more time for mindful pauses, eating, etc. The dedicated meditation time is more challenging. Okay, good. But even I like that first statement, being more mindful about in the thoughts that you have about yourself. Remember that the middle part of the class was a lot about thoughts, and that's where some of the insight comes in. We learn more about ourselves because we have a lot of conditioned and repetitive thought patterns, to the point where it's sometimes we're just on this autopilot. And as you know, we've talked about this, mindfulness helps us get off autopilot and really be present in the here and now. We've got a couple of good quotes on that as we go forward. So if you're still finding some difficult time to sit formally, maybe that's your goal now, is to try to come up with maybe it's, if you can't do it daily, maybe it's every other day or several times a week, but finding something to link it to so that you do practice it on a regular basis. Sometimes challenging to devote time. It is a process. Yes, exactly. And I don't expect you to be, jumping right into it, but hopefully the 6 weeks has given you a lot to think about and a lot of practices to try. Thanks for the great materials. Good. Hopefully that they've been helpful. And I've tried to send you some things and to kind of restart you if that's been helpful. Formal practice going well. Good. Works better before my coffee. Good. Excellent. See, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. What time of day, what before or after a certain activity definitely keeps me calmer when I do the formal practice. And that's another good point. You notice that it has an effect on your mental state and your emotional state. You need to work on informal practices and mindful pauses. Good. So I'm going to give you some reminders again. Next one, been trying to learn to pause going. Good. Same thing, especially going into a stressful situation. So that's a great point. Sometimes we know when things are going to be a little stressful, so it helps to take that quick little pause to kind of recenter, refocus, get ourselves ready and prepped mindfully for that. Still trying to arrive 15 minutes earlier at work. Great, that's excellent. And pausing before entering the building. I have shared with my family. That's good. Get your family involved, and get your family or somebody, have a mindful buddy. That's a great way to do it too. And I'm glad to hear it's helping your daughter with college stress. So we all have our own stressors, don't we? You can't get away from those. Concentrating on my breath while at work. Good. If I get stressed, I'm using my breathing to help when I can't walk away from my desk, and help so much. Yeah, so we can't always walk away from it. We can't always avoid it or get move ourselves physically, but we can do things with our breath and our mind. And so that's such a good point there. So thank you. Good. All right. These have been good examples, I think. And so as we go through this, feel free to share some other things. So again, I think it's important to integrate formal and informal, have a nice balance, but whatever works for you, that's really important for your life. We all have different schedules and different responsibilities at work and at home. So you have to figure out what works for you. And I hopefully that's the class has been helpful to that. So I like this quote here. It's somewhat of a little different way to think about mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what is happening right now without wishing it were different. Think about it. How many times are we in a situation where we want things to be different? It's simple, dumb little example. Yesterday it rained and it poured, right? And I had to take the garbage out. I had to go out to the curb for the garbage man to pick up this morning. So, and the dog had to go out. So, thinking to myself, this is miserable. It was really pouring, a lot of wind. And so I'm thinking, I want this to go away, but of course you can't change the weather or the rain. So I was wishing it was different, but what can we do to accept it as it is? How can we deal with it? And I was able to find a little bit of a window to get the dog out and to get the garbage out. Still got pretty wet, but it's that awareness of so if it was a nice sunny day and enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will. Things always change. And the last part, being with the unpleasant without fearing it will always be this way, which it won't. So, I knew the rain was going to stop eventually. I knew even if I got wet, I just got covered up nicely. And the dog certainly didn't want to go out and had to almost kind of carry him outside. He's a small little guy. And he finally did his business, and thankfully, but he didn't want to go either. So sometimes we got to do what we got to do. But the key, I think, again, is to be aware of when we want things to stay as they are because they're pleasant, and when we don't want things because they are unpleasant, and noticing that urge, and to try to continue to stay in the present moment, knowing that it's going to change. That's the good thing. If it's unpleasant, we know that it's going to change. It's going to usually go away. If it's pleasant, well, unfortunately, that's going to change too. We can't keep it that way forever, but we can be aware of it, enjoy it while it lasts. And that's actually, it kind of leads into our pauses, our purposeful pauses. I know you've seen this quote before, but I think it's really apropos in that, remember, we're training ourselves to get into this blissful or peaceful state of mind, even when things are really, really hectic and chaotic. And so those pauses are important. And again, I think you've seen most of these. Just as a reminder, whether it's conscious breathing, like some of you are doing, even at your desk, great, perfect, wonderful. Or the 3 breaths for a pause, which, just to remind you, first breath is focusing on the breath itself. Second deep breath is focusing on the body. What does the body need? Third breath is focusing on being kind to yourself. Hand washing, Purelling, all those things that can be great sensory experiences to bring us back to the moment, not let the mind do its time travel thing. Savoring, as I was just saying, really taking some time to, when there is something pleasant going on, to enjoy it, savor it, marinate in it, let it sink in. The last one there is the hand tracing. I don't know if I did this in the class, but it's as simple as putting up one hand and tracing it. And so you feel the sensation, so you get that tactile sense. And as you move up the finger, you breathe in. And then you breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. And you go all the way to the other side of the hand, to the thumb. And if you have time, you can go all the way back. So that's a simple little technique that you can use. Feeling your feet is another one. And that's similar, but you're not going to trace the foot, but you feel the contact your feet make with the ground. That can be quite grounding and connecting you to the earth. So just feel into the sensations of your feet. Usually our hands and our feet are good places to feel. We have a lot of sensations there, and it's a good way to ground us. In other words, to get us out of the head, out of all the swirling thoughts that may be going on, and to feel your feet and your hands. So just some reminders of pauses that you can try, continue doing. These are gratitude pauses. Gratitude has been a great way to focus in on the positive and build that positive mindset. So breathing deep, appreciating our aliveness, appreciating the fact that we are breathing, scanning the body. So often when we scan the body, we zero in on what we don't like. I can attest to that as I age. All these miscellaneous and strange body pains come up out of nowhere. I don't know if any of you experienced that, but it's easy to focus in on what's not working that well in the body, whether it's knee pain or pain in the back or shoulder pain, they're there. So intentionally focus on what's good about the body You know, I can still walk. I can still ride my bike. I can still play a little tennis. I'm appreciating those things. What's good about your body? Really, really important to zero in on those positive things. And then, of course, any kind of gratitude practice is good. Writing it down is always helpful. In fact, the research shows that some sort of recording gratitude is very helpful. So, who are you grateful for? And then going a little bit deeper, why? Be specific, and then you might tell them or email them or text them why you're grateful for how they've been helpful to you. So gratitude is another good skill. Informal, everyday mindfulness. I know you've seen this one too, but just as a reminder, all those routine tasks. If you're, a few of you said you're still trying to do some informal practices, these are just some good suggestions. Everything from hand washing to all the routine tasks I've listed here. There's so many of them. Just simply be aware of what you're doing while you're doing it, what's going on in the mind, what's going on emotionally, what's going on in your body. Use your sensory experience to reconnect with the present moment. And remember the stop technique. That's S is for stop. So when you're feeling a little bit stressed, stop. T, take a deep breath, a deep mindful breath. O, observe. Same thing, observe thoughts, feelings, body sensations. And then P is proceed with that new awareness. Having paused for even just a minute can make a difference. Some of you also mentioned this. I'm glad to see that. I think mindful eating, and the next one I think is walking. So all those things that we already do. I think eating is especially important. I also try to do this while I'm preparing the food, cooking, or whether even if it's just a cup of coffee or tea, you can use that experience too to really take yourself off of autopilot, to remind yourself to be present as to what you're doing while you're preparing your food and then eating your food. And then hopefully, if you haven't, you might want to try the mindful chocolate, which I particularly like, or the mindful raisin experience. That's another classic mindfulness practice that you might try if you haven't already done that. And then walking, you know, so often we're walking to meetings, we're walking to get things done. That's another way to be grateful about what we can do if you're able to walk, to be very aware of the movement, of the lifting and placing of the feet. Again, you can do this in the very classic way. Walking meditation might be just 10 steps in, slowing down in either direction, really paying attention to the sensations of walking. Or a lot of people I know do this in their walks. We're getting into springtime. It's more and more we're getting outside. So you might try walking and being aware of all the various sensations, the sun and the breeze, and everything's getting a little bit greener and the flowers are starting to come out. So great opportunities to bring mindfulness as we get out and about. And then I know you've seen this too, but mindful movement, any kind of gentle stretching or yoga is really good to do mindfully. And again, just slowing it down a little bit, mindfully being aware of how it feels as we do the stretch. You can also do things like tensing and then relaxing. So progressive muscle relaxation is pretty much that. You go through the different muscle parts, groups in the body, and you tense them up. Say if you're just doing your hands, you tense them up for about 5 seconds, really hold them tight, feel what that tension feels like, and then you relax and notice what that feels like. And do that throughout the body. Very, very relaxing, but a great mindfulness exercise. Just want to remind you also about the attitudes that are so important. There are 9 attitudes in that. And when I send these out again, if you want to go back and watch any of these, but you might notice what's an attitude or two that's important to you that you want to cultivate a little bit more. For me, I call out the patience, kindness, acceptance, and non-judging. I think those are really important practices for ourselves and for our mindfulness. And when I find myself kind of getting, down on myself a little bit, to bring up that, remember not to judge, remember to be kind to myself, remember to accept things the way they are, and to be patient. Really important attitudes as we go into our practice and our meditations. And I always like the Mona Lisa here with the slight smile. Just remember to bring a kind of a half smile of kindness to your, even if you don't feel like it. When you smile to yourself, it sends a signal to the nervous system to relax and calm down, kind of a friendly signal to be kind to yourself rather than being self-critical or judgmental. So that's, as I think you've heard, a really key and central aspect to our practices. If you find yourself saying to yourself, I'm not doing this right, or I can't seem to get this going, watch that, watch what you're saying to yourself. Be aware of your self-talk. And we're never going to be perfect with this. We're always going to be a little bit, critical. It's kind of how we're hardwired, unfortunately, especially in our society. So noticing that when you do that to yourself, and then counteract that with a little bit of self-kindness, maybe smiling to yourself, maybe appreciating the good things that you do, giving yourself that pat on the back and appreciation. Really, really important to keeping this all going. Okay, so let's get to the first meditation. The first meditation is going to be called, let's do this one. Body like a mountain, heart like an ocean, mind like the sky. All right, so find a comfortable position. As we begin to settle, take a full deep breath. And on the out breath, allow yourself to arrive into your meditative position, feeling into the points of contact that your body make with the chair. Breathing a few more deep breaths, letting the body give itself up to gravity, making sure the air flows all the way out on the out breath, and resting into gravity as you allow the breathing to find its own rhythm and pace. So we'll start with allowing the body to be like a mountain, stable and grounded, yet breathing and flexible. Rest inside this stability and at the same time be open to flexibility. As you sit here, letting an image form in your mind's eye of a magnificent, beautiful mountain, one you've seen or just even one you can imagine, and letting it gradually come into greater focus and clarity. And letting the feeling of its overall shape and magnitude form, and seeing its lofty peaks high in the sky, the large base of the mountain rooted in bedrock in the earth's crust, its steep or gently sloping sides, and noticing how massive it is, solid and unmovable, and how beautiful it is from afar or up close, and just observing it, noticing its qualities. And continuing to breathe, and with each breath, becoming a little more of a breathing mountain, alive and vital, yet unwavering in inner stillness. A centered, grounded, unmoving presence. Through it all, the mountain just sits, constantly changing, and at the same time remaining itself. It remains still as the seasons flow from one to the other, and as the weather continually changes. And in the same way, as we sit in meditation, we learn to experience the mountain. We can embody the same stillness and groundedness in the face of everything that changes in our own lives. We may experience storms of varying intensity. By becoming the mountain in our meditation, we can link up with its strength and stability and adopt them for our own. We can use its energy to support our energy to encounter each moment with mindfulness and clarity. Heart like an ocean. So, aware of our emotional life, get a sense of this as we bring our attention to the heart area and tune into your emotional weather. The broad feeling tone. You might feel peaceful, you might be sad, you might feel relief at being still. Whatever is there emotionally. If our emotions feel intense, they're like putting food coloring in a glass of water. But if we place the same amount of food coloring into the ocean, we cannot even detect it. See if we can release into this very broad perspective. And we can use the anchor metaphor. So if our emotions create some waves and turbulence, you can always throw out an anchor to steady and calm yourself. Just feel the breath again. Breathe deeply. Let the out breath be long and empty all the air out so that the next breath just comes naturally. The waters may still be choppy, but your anchor keeps you steady and less tossed about. And then the third aspect, mind like the sky. Letting our mind's awareness be vast, limitless, and boundless like a clear blue sky. Letting thoughts flow through this boundless awareness. Letting clouds, or rather like clouds, our thoughts are like clouds as they come and go. Now imagine you're on top of a mountain. Feel the texture of the ground. It's made of earth and stone, firm and solid, and you're anchored on this mountain with your body and your mind. Breathe in deeply. Feel the clear, cool mountain air fill your lungs. Let that air fill your whole body, filling it with light, peace, and calmness. Look at the sky. It's blue, cloudless, perfectly clear, pure and empty. And as you look into the sky, feel your mind expanding and emptying into the vast open space. All your thoughts and emotions dissolve into the vastness. Your mind is clear, empty, and as vast as the sky. And so just rest in the stillness. Now let's be aware of all these dimensions at the same time. Body like a mountain, stable and grounded. heart like the ocean, vast and deep, mind like the sky, boundless and clear. Letting all of our experience arise and pass moment by moment without getting so caught up in it. Now, as we close, pay particular attention between the body and the chair you're in or the contact you make with the ground. And when you're ready, you can move a little bit, open the eyes if they've been closed, feel free to stretch. And you might form an intention to take this kind of awareness into your day. Body like a mountain, heart like an ocean, mind like the sky. Okay, so that is based on the work of Vidymala Burch, who is an excellent teacher also. There's a lot of great teachers out there. She's got a good website. She does a lot of work with pain. She has a lot of great meditations. So feel free to put into the chat what that was like. I'm curious to know what you think. As I move forward, I have limited time, so I'm trying to squeeze a lot in as usual. Just want to remind you of this quote from Sharon Salzberg. If we can remember to be mindful, if we can add more moments of mindfulness, that makes all the difference. Because countless times a day, we lose mindfulness, right? Even myself, all of us, everybody. I mean, and we become lost in reaction or disconnected from what is happening. But the moment we recognize that we're lost, that we've lost mindfulness, we've already regained it. That recognition is its essence, and we can begin again. So great quote, and it's kind of a good reminder that, you know, it's this constant remembering to be mindful as we move throughout the day. So that's one that I always find helpful. Thank you for these replies too about that recent meditation. I like that one too. Again, this just is a reminder, we get lost in thought. Our thoughts can become overwhelming and burdensome. They build on each other. They usually tend towards the negative and can often be like the man on the walk here. And our practice is to come to recognize when that's that same quote, basically, to recognize when that's happening. Take a deep breath, do something mindful, ground yourself, stop that train of thought, bring yourself to the present moment like the dog. That's what it's all about. It's really that simple. Couple of other quotes, because we've learned in the class that it is our thoughts that get us into trouble. So we are not troubled by the things. In other words, we're not troubled by those stressors in life, but by the opinions we have about those things. We make it worse by overthinking it and, you know, really obsessing and ruminating about things. But as Viktor Frankl, this is from his book in Man's Search for Meaning, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And that's really what mindfulness is about. It's getting in touch with that space so that we have a little bit more choice in that space between stimulus and response. Otherwise, we feel like this. Otherwise, we get so overwhelmed and burdened. It's hard to get out of this, you know, when we feel like this, right? It's just overwhelming. So the more we practice it, we kind of keep those clouds, those worries and concerns from building up, and we take the weight off our mind. And hopefully our mind gets a little bit like that meditation, mind like the open sky, and we don't get as connected and caught up in our thought processes. We're able to see them from a little bit of distance and be able to see them a little bit more objectively. We also know that this can affect working with difficult emotions. We spent a whole class on this. So You know, maybe you want to go back and see some of those classes. They're all on that YouTube channel there. If you want to go back and revisit any of those, feel free to do that. But this is where I think mindfulness can really help with stress and anxiety and depression and any of those, even if it's not full blown, but just difficult emotions. And I mean, honestly, who doesn't have emotional reactions to all that's going on in our crazy world right now? Whether it's at work, in our families, or in the world at large, you know, there's pretty overwhelming stuff going on. So our mindfulness practice can really, really be helpful. All right, so this brings us to the last meditation. Going to probably go over a little bit, probably finish closer to 9, rather to 12:55, if that's okay. There is a link here when you get the slides to a choiceless awareness meditation, and you can listen to that. I'm going to do something a little similar. It's called the spectrum of awareness. And remember, in the beginning of the class, we focused on the breath and we used the breath as our anchor. So we're going to start that way. So kind of like using that flashlight beam to zero in and train our attention, even like a laser beam. But then we're going to open up more like a floodlight, and we're going to be more in, basically it's the same thing as choiceless awareness. We're going to be aware of whatever comes into our experience, just letting it happen. And it's kind of an interesting way to kind of open up and just experience life flowing through us. We can always go back to the anchor, and you'll see how that works as we do it. So enough for the intro. Let's do the meditation. So again, find a position that you like, is comfortable for you, nice and balanced between being relaxed and attentive. And let's just let's take a few breaths, nice deep breaths to help us as we find a comfortable position. Closing the eyes if you wish, and just notice how you're doing in this moment, being curious about your body and mind. Maintaining an attitude of kindness and settling into your own sense of being. It's right here in every moment, this human capacity to be aware. So we're going to start with focused awareness, and this could either be our breath or the body. So let's start with the body. So just be aware of the body sitting, being aware of the touch points of the chair supporting us, being aware of our hands and arms, where they are, being aware of the feet on the floor. And you might pick one spot. If there's one spot where you really feel connected, that could be your body anchor. And just feel that for a moment. Now, the other anchor is the breath. So feel the breath entering and leaving the body. And see if you can see where you feel the breath most directly. This could be at the nose and the nostrils, or at the chest and the lungs, or at the belly. Pick one of those spots as your breath anchor. And so we can use the breath or the body as the anchor. And just follow, I'm going to guide it as if we're using the breath right now. So just feeling the breath, following each breath flow in and out of the body. Giving you a little bit of silence here just to stay with the breathing. And whenever you notice yourself lost in thought, return your focus back to your anchor, back to that point of the breath or your body. And that's the basic practice that we learned, right? We just keep returning whenever we get distracted, whenever we get basically pulled into the past or the future. Returning to our breath brings us back to the present. So that's focused awareness. Now, next, when a new object, such as emotions or a thought or a sensation, becomes very obvious, calling out to you, let go of your anchor and turn your attention to whatever this new object is. Feel the emotion or sensation in your body. Notice the thought. Don't get caught up in it. Don't engage with it, but just be curious about it. Notice what happens to it when you pay attention to it. Stay with this new aspect of experience until it no longer holds your attention, or until it stops, or until something else grabs your attention. Ultimately, you can return to your anchor, to your breath, or the body anchor. And in this way, your attention has become a little bit more flexible. Now, if you want to explore a fully flexible awareness, you can try it now. Sensations, thoughts, sounds, emotions may be coming and going in the background. Let go of your meditation anchor and turn your attention to these background objects. Settle back and notice whatever is obvious to you as it arises and passes. No need to return to your anchor. So there's a sensation. It increases or decreases, you notice it. Or there's a sound that pulls you, or then maybe a memory. You feel your heart racing and you take a breath. Oh, and there's a sensation in the foot, and so on. Emotions arise, a sound grabs you. These are examples, but you can notice whatever pulls your attention. It might be very subtle. It might become more obvious. Just follow what is most obvious in your experience. Just rest. Just let your awareness be as it is. Just natural, open awareness. Nothing to do. There's no effort that we have to make. Just open your senses. Be aware. Listen to sounds. Feel the back of your body on the chair. Notice your breathing. If you wish, you can even open your eyes and you can expand your visual field in front of you, to the sides, up and down. Keep your eyes soft. Notice if it's possible to also hear and sense in this expanded way. Can you feel your inner experience simultaneously So in other words, can you be external and internal at the same time? Your mind is open, spacious, limitless like the sky. Just marinate here for a little while. Now, if you start to feel a little bit confused or contracted, you always have the present moment to return to. You can always return to your anchor in the breath or your body. It's always there for you to just kind of stabilize your attention. Whenever you feel ready, we can conclude this meditation. And again, open the eyes if they're not open already. You might want to move a little bit, stretch a little bit, feel the breath, and reconnect with your surroundings. So that is from a book called The Little Book of Being. It's by Diana Winston, another good teacher. Great little book. Practices and guidance for uncovering your natural awareness. And then, as I said, you might want to try that choiceless awareness meditation with Jon Kabat-Zinn. The link will be in when I send out the slides. So again, there's lots of resources to support your practice. We have on our website 30 guided meditations of all different types and lengths. You have the different apps to try. I've got a website you can check out if you like. There's lots of great podcasts that are meditation oriented. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube. We have our own YouTube where I've got all the classes and lots of different playlists on there. If you haven't checked that out, you might want to do that. And again, just a reminder about our app from EFR. If you haven't downloaded that, that's available. You register on the carillonwellbeing.com/YNHHS. Our phone meditations, we're still doing these, so hope you might want to consider joining these specific times, Monday through Friday. And again, these are the meditations that we have on the Carillon site. They've all been uploaded there. So all the ones that we've done, we have like mountain meditation, like that first one we did, mountain body like the mountain. There's a whole meditation on that. If you like that, you can go back to that. And all of them are right there. So do check those out. And again, I'll remind you with Jon Kabat-Zinn's suggestion, it helps to keep in mind that good or bad, like I was saying before, pleasant or unpleasant, the present moment is the only time any of us are still alive or are alive. Therefore, it's the only time to learn, grow, see what's really going on, find some degree of balance, feel and express emotions such as love and appreciation, and do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. It takes a lot of practice, but you have lots of moments, and you can treat each one as a new beginning. And this is really the key. Remember, the real meditation is your life and how you inhabit it moment by moment. So with that, I'll say thank you and namaste and peace. I see those comments. Thank you for appreciate those positive feedback. If you have any questions going forward, don't forget we do this, the mindfulness refresher that's coming up. It's always the second Wednesday of the month. You can find it on LMS and sign up that way, or just let me know. I'm happy to add you to the invite. Happy to have you be with us. I always try to come up with some new material and some different things. And thank you all very, very much for being here, and really appreciate you coming together to practice and practice with me and practice as a community. It's really important. So have a great day. I'm going to stop the recording, and I thank you so very much.